Hello, my name is Lynn from L&J Goods. I did a really cool dresser using the Joie de Roses transfer. It's new from Iod. I had one piece left and I'm going to use this to show you a really fun project, and I'm also going to use the FAUX mold and the VIRIDIS mold. Iod has an incredible collection for spring of 2024. You'll find a playlist in the description box below. A lot of us creative stockists have gotten together and we've shared some projects for this special spring release. This is faded burlap and white swan, some sandy blonde. Just picking up each of these colors on my brush. I am going to dry this. As it's drying, I'm just going to keep dragging this stiffer brush. I'm going to keep dragging it across here. And with the chalk paint, it creates a really cool texture. We're going to let this continue to dry a little bit here. To continue that barnwood look, I'm using Iod's Barnwood Planks stamp and a custom ink blend. To create a warm sepia tone, I've mixed 7 parts Iod turmeric ink with 1 part Iod black ink. I always start with this particular stamp that's got the ridges along the outside edge so that I get a good separation between the stamps. I apply it almost to the edge of my project and somewhat off the bottom edge of the project. And then I continue to fill in that background with various barnwood plank stamps. I can also ink just that little edge ridge so that I can create another separation between the stamps. Now that my barnwood background is completely dry, I'm going to go ahead and put a sealer on it, let that dry, and then I'll work on the mold placement. This is air dry clay from Iod. I'll be using this in my molds. First, dust the molds that you want to cast with cornstarch. That's going to keep the clay from sticking. I've already laid out a general idea of what I want this to look like, so I pretty much know which molds I'm going to be using. I'll tear off a chunk of air dry clay, let it get soft in my hands, and then I will press it into that mold using my thumbs to push the clay along and then remove the excess. I use the micro rim as a guide so that I get a nice flat back. You could also use a paint scraper or the edge of a plastic card if you find that that's easier. And then I'll flip it over and that beautiful mold releases. You can also cast these molds with resin. I do like to have some of these on hand so that I can use them whenever I have a project ready to go. Today, because I'm going to be layering some of these molds, I do like to use the air dry clay. That way I have a little more flexibility as far as shaping these molds or layering them over top of each other and removing any excess that I don't need from underneath one of the layers. With the bigger pieces, I like to take a good chunk of the clay out to work all one piece into the mold so that I don't have any breaks or weak spots. The Iod molds also have measurements for resin and the weight for how much clay it would take to fill this mold. So you can see it's about the same size as the length of this mold. So now I'll just start to work it into place. I'm going to pull that clay away so the micro rim is exposed all around the perimeter of the mold. Once the sealer has completely dried over my chalk paint, I'm going to apply the transfer. I have one sheet left from a dresser project that I did using Joie de Roses. If you want to see that dresser project, it's included in that Iod spring release playlist. I'll be creating a framework around this image. So I am going to want to trim away some of the excess. That is going to give me a nice little border. These grid lines are great for measuring out your projects and cutting some nice straight lines. It makes the placement so much easier. I'm going to rough out my placement right now. Then I'll trim away anything that's underneath that could be bulking up the layers too much. Then I'm going to tape this in place and let it dry. I'm going to allow for the shrinkage that will naturally occur as the clay dries. Some of my leaves will overlap just a bit, and I kind of like that look. I'll save this to perhaps layer over another area later. Taping the molds in place as they dry is going to help to reduce any warping that could occur. Air dry clay will naturally shrink and may crack as it dries, but that's okay. I love the organic nature of the clay, and I think that it just adds to that beautiful, aged, natural look that I'm going for. I'll let this dry completely, and then I'll check back in on it tomorrow. Okay, I've let my molds dry completely. Let's take a look underneath the tape. Okay, so let's take a close look. You can see that obviously there was a little bit of shrinkage, but that's okay because I have accommodated for that. Here I allowed for some overlap, and then I also saved these extra little leaves. I can always lay another leaf over the top of any join or split that may have occurred. So now I'll slide everything to the side, apply my transfer, and then glue all of my pieces down. Once I put my transfer kind of in place here to get a general idea of my placement, I'm going to place my VIRIDIS and Faux Bois molds in place just to double check, see where else I might need to trim away any of that transfer. I'll just make a few marks with a Sharpie so that I know where I need to adjust. I'm going to go ahead and put a bit of blue tape here so that it holds my transfer in the position that I want. And then I'll remove the backing sheet and then lay that right down. Now I'll come in with a bit of my backing paper, and I'm going to burnish just to assure that I have good adhesion over the entire transfer. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue on these border pieces. I'll clean up any excess glue with a Q-tip. Once the glue is all set up, I'm going to apply a polyacrylic sealer over the entire piece so that I can go ahead and do some glaze effects over the molds. I'm using a mix of colors with some clear glaze. I'm also going to keep some Q-tips handy so that I can touch up any place along the edges where I have gone out of bounds.
I'd never fall. You are my sunshine on a rainy day. You are the one who takes my breath away. In the vast skies of love, I'm free. As long as you're here with me. Sunshine, hey, you are my sunshine, 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 you are my sunshine, sunshine.
Now that everything is painted and glazed, I am going to let this dry, and then I'm going to apply some dark wax to give my piece some additional depth. Oh, look at that. That's pretty. I had JR frame out this beautiful piece with some scrap wood for the perfect finishing touch. And there you go. What a beautiful piece featuring the Iod Faux Bois and VIRIDIS molds. And that leftover panel from Joie de Roses. Hey, while you're here, we'd love it if you would go ahead and click that subscribe button, leave a comment, let us know what you think of the new Iod Spring Release 2024, available at lnjgoods.com or our brick and mortar shop in Medina, New York.